Thinking about buying a franchise? Then the How to Buy a Franchise show is just for you. Here's your host, Dr. John Hayes.
If I'm a master franchisee and I leave the business to start generating leads and talking to prospects like exhibiting at expos, what happens now to my pilot business? Is it going to go into the tank, or have you taught me how to pass it off to someone else?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, John. Usually what happens is the master franchisee sells that to an existing person that's looking to buy an existing operation. That's one. Or sometimes they have a management team in place or a family member who wants to carry on the business. So they don't have to get rid of the franchise. They can keep it or sell it, move it on, and then move into the franchising side.
So a master franchisee, after that first year, doesn't have to own any unit if they don't want to.
That's correct.
But some of them choose to own multiple units, I
They
suppose.
do, yeah. There's smaller countries like Singapore, where areas where you're limited in size, so the master may choose to say, I want to sell 4 or 5 or 6, and I want to keep the rest of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the one of the complaints that we hear from master franchisees, or one of the downsides they say of their business is, I'm not really cut out to generate leads, and I don't know how to sell a franchise. Mm-hmm. How many of them stumble at that point, and why do they stumble?
Well, I think it's really behooves us, it's on our side, to pick the right mentality to go into business to begin with. Somebody that has the capabilities to deal with people, and if they don't do it themselves, at least somebody on their team we can work with that can be that person that's talking to the public. It's really not that difficult. So we really, to this point, haven't had that problem. So we look for the right mentality and personality to begin with, John.
And you are proof that franchises can be sold in other countries. And how many franchises have you sold? Do you keep track of how many sales you've done through the years?
As you said, we've got 8 brands now over 30 years. I think we're approaching 1,500 franchisees in 73 countries now.
Yes. Of those 1,500, how many of those sales came from Tony Foley?
Oh gosh, now you put me on the spot. I would say I've probably been responsible for a few hundred of those myself at least.
Yeah, I would think so.
I would think so, yeah.
Otherwise, Ray Titus wouldn't employ you.
That's true. So yeah, but right now I live in the U.S. I don't work there. My world is everything outside the U.S.
Yeah. So I spoke to Ray earlier today, and one of the things that he mentioned is what you just mentioned, finding the right person. You've got to get the right people on your bus. So if you've got 1,500 franchisees with United Franchise Group, if those are the wrong people, the bus is going to fall, the bus is going to tilt. It's going to be lopsided, or the bus isn't going to move.
Well, that's true, yeah, and that's probably true in most businesses. So you got to be able to select the right people, and that's really where the catch is for all of this. The franchising part really is not difficult. It's getting the right mentality, personality, aligned with your business concept.
Yes. This, I believe, is where most franchise companies are lacking or failing, because they do not identify the right people. Finding the right people may be more difficult than selling a franchise.
From my opinion, definitely is.
Yeah.
That's really the key.
Because there will be this weekend, whether it's going to be 12,000 people, 15, 20,000 people who come through this expo, the majority of them want to buy a franchise, but the majority of them also do not know, would they make a good franchisee? They don't take time to study that. People are too excited about, okay, let me get in there, find a concept, get rid of my job, or I haven't had a job for 3 years, so let me buy a business and get started, without giving enough thought to, am I the right person?
Yeah.
So good franchisors stop at that point and say, are you the right person? And I spoke to Ray about this. One of the ways to do that, and I find it interesting that more franchise companies aren't doing this, is to use a profiling system. Whether it's the Franchise Navigator, for example, which I personally like, I write about it quite a bit in my books and my articles. I send people to the Franchise Navigator because in just a matter of a few minutes, it gives you a printout of where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and then you could look at a franchise company and say, well, if I'm not strong in sales and this franchise company requires me to be strong in sales, I might not be I'm obviously not a good fit for this franchise, but I might be a good fit for another one.
Absolutely, yeah. The process is the key, you're right. And I think people that come to this show this weekend, or these next 3 days in New York, I hope they're not here to buy a franchise, John, personally speaking. I hope they're here to gather information, collect data, and then do their due diligence. And a good franchise company will allow that process to take place.
Yes.
And it'll take time to do that. So we're advocates of doing the right thing.
Yes, and that's what I do. I'm an advocate of franchise education. I've been doing this for more than 30 years. My interest is in helping people understand if franchising makes sense for them.
Thank you for listening to How to Buy a Franchise Show. If you want immediate assistance, visit howtobuyafranchise.com to contact Dr. John Hayes for a free consultation.